such an asshole.
So I decided to be a Democrat on several levels. One, I'm going to take a study from the social sciences, which are all bullshit. There's no statistical veracity at all with the social sciences. But I have a PhD, so I could say this game source study, right? So that's one way I'm going to be a Democrat. Second way is that I've heard of the organization doing the research, and they are biased, but I probably tend to believe them a little bit anyway. But they're biased, but that doesn't matter. And then the third thing I'm going to do as a Democrat is lie in the title. This study does not show that daycare is actually child abuse. That's just me more or less pointing the direction it goes. And I personally would consider daycare child, not like, oh, we got to have the kids sit there for an hour between school and work. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where you fully outsource the raising of your child to daycare or your parents or a babysitter or a nanny. That I will stand by as child abuse because it's not the fucking parent raising the kid. And that's not my scientific study. Blah, blah, blah. No, you're just a despicable human being if you don't raise your kid. But, I don't want to get in the way of Americans consuming shit because we know, Lord God Almighty, your true one and only God is materialism. So throw the kid into the furnace of Moloch because mommy needs a new purse and daddy needs a new boat. Fuck all you people. However, somebody sent me a thing. It's a study. Studies show, research suggests. Let me close out that. Good afternoon, Aaron. I came across this blog post after listening to a podcast regarding how little daycare is available in major cities, and the guest mentioned that maybe you should all stop having kids you can't afford. Oh my God, the genius economist came up with the solution. Little daycare is available in major cities because the people there keep outbreeding the supply. Oh, I'm sorry. No, major cities. And the guest mentioned that a 26-year-long study on the effects of daycare on the development of children was released in 2023. Very interesting, 26 years. This goes back to the late 90s then. Social sciences reputation notwithstanding, the results of the study are fairly damning and add to the pile of research coming out that concludes that boomer feminist girl boss family structure is horrible for raising a family. Children need their moms and their dads. They do not need a government check. They do not need Nana. They do not need daycare. They need their moms and their dads. And one of them better fucking stay home and raise the kid. The blog post dives deep into the multi-decade study and really hammers home how bad of an idea it is placing young children in daycare for long periods of time. It is not a bad idea if you don't love your children. If your goal is to have children as things, as items, along with an SUV, granite countertops, travel, all the other material items, if you view your child as a thing, then daycare is outstanding because you don't actually have to raise it. It's a thing. It's a couch. It's an Escalade. All right. So it's working just fine. Again, the public schools are there to babysit your children because you sure the fuck aren't going to raise them and you sure the fuck aren't going to educate them. So it's working as people deep down inside intended. But no, if your intention was to raise well-anchored, productive, happy, with an increased chance of success and happiness children, then no. Outsourcing raising your children to randos is horrible. And I will say it again, it's fucking low-grade child abuse. Fuck you. I hope you choke on your Cadillac Escalade. The blog post dives into multi-daycare periods of time. Almost like parents raising their kids directly helps the child develop healthily. How dare you, sir? The conclusion is fumbled, I think. The conclusion doesn't matter because American parents are going to continue to pursue things and treat their children as things instead of raising their children. That's going to continue. It's not going to stop. So the conclusion is irrelevant. I'm sure since the obvious reduced taxes so family could survive on one income, that is actually the smaller of the pieces for why people can't afford a one family income. Most of it is student loan debt. I won't let you guess figuring out which group of people disproportionately contribute to that variable. But it is mostly spending. It is mostly spending on shit they don't need. I will say this again. I think it's in How Not to Become a Millennial. Depends on the study, also social scientists, but it depends on who you want to believe. Between 30 and 50% of, they only focused on women. Men could be factored into this too, but they only focused on women. 30 to 50% of you women would actually end up taking more money home if you just quit your job and raise your kids. It depends on your assumptions, your income and your tax bracket, the state as well, how many kids you have. But a third to half of you would have been better off actually raising your fucking children. You know better. Just say, before you yell at me, just say, I love myself more than my children. Repeat after me. I love myself more than my children. And now also repeat after me. I love things more than my children. Say it with me now. 1, 2, 3. I love things more than my children. And if you are a child, or I guess you could be an adult child, and your parents, I'm not talking, they dropped you off occasionally at daycare, that's fine. But where you were raised by someone, not your parents, repeat after me. My parents love things more than me. There you go. I'm glad I made that abundantly clear. And parents should stay together for the kids, with one staying home to raise them at least while they're infants and toddlers isn't mentioned. It's not my problem. Do we need to mention it? Do we need to? Anyway, let me know for a video response. So I pulled it up. This is from the Family Studies. I believe it's a conservative-leaning organization. I'm not sure, but it just seems to be. But that never bothered you, Democrat journalists. Look, hey, guys, I'm a Democrat journalist. It's whatever I want to believe. I'll just pick the data because I want to believe kids don't need their parents. Because ultimately, I'm the purest materialist, consumerist, capitalist. I want all this shit and this stuff. I want the responsibility of raising children. That should be outsourced to the state parents. Very few shared understandings span our gaping political divide, but surely this is one. The early years of a child's life matter for children, family, society, and of course the future. However, the way this reality translates into decisions ranging from the personal to the political often exposes significant ideological and political divisions. I would have just assumed Republican women were just as prone to consume shit over the Democrat women. I would think this is apolitical. That is why the science of early development is so important. It's not a science about what children really need to survive, to thrive, and how early environments shape their development, what kind of society we are creating. With such a politically fraught issue, I really, is it political? Dude, those Republican chicks out in the suburbs, they just can't wait to get, outsource the kids to a nanny. I think this has nothing to do with politics. It can be difficult to even make certain what studies published in reputable journals reveal. Highlights: the disconcerting effects of hours in daycare are most likely to materialize when children enter daycare for 20 to 30 hours per week in the first year of life and maintain that level of care until school. They don't love you, period. Or I take it back. Sorry, I don't have my mute button. They love you, they just don't love you more than themselves or things. There's a difference, I love the cat, but I don't have a cat. But if I had a pet cat, I'd love the cat. But hey, the cat that's got kidney disease and it's a $5,000 surgery. I'm like, sorry, I don't love you more than $5,000. 2, early, extensive, and continuous non-parental care appear to put children on a trajectory for social, emotional challenges per a long-term study. No shit. We need a study for this. 3, it's the cumulative effects of extensive hours in childcare beginning early in life that pose risk to emotional development, not short-term changes in the number of hours spent. That challenge was exposed in recent news about research making the case that, contrary to large-scale studies indicating otherwise, extensive hours in daycare centers have no impact on children's social emotional development. That's a lie. That is biased research. I guarantee you, if they were to try and recreate that, like all psychological studies, 2/3 of the time it would fail, more than half. According to the headlines, parents can breathe a sigh of relief. Anything in the media to forgive these people of their horrible choices. Oh, wow. And with all they worry about, there is one thing they may not need to be concerned about: whether kids' time spent in child care center will lead to problem behavior. Instead, parents should feel encouraged and reassured that in spite of what they may have heard, sensed, or believed, spending extensive hours in daycare centers, even beginning in the first year of life, has nothing to do with children's social emotional experience and behaviors. That is coming from a group of people who tell you what you want to hear, and you're all liars, and you're all financially motivated so that daycare and public schools and preschool, all ideally, hopefully financed someday with government money and unionized. That is the goal. If you're so stupid to believe this biased political horseshit, I just don't have kids. Can you do that? Can you not have kids? Just what's wrong with not having kids? It was a startling conclusion given important evidence documenting otherwise. In fact, this new research study does little to settle the issue. The authors from universities in the United States, Canada, France, Germany, Norway, and the Netherlands drew on data from each other of those countries to evaluate whether children's problem behaviors increased in response to short-term surges in the number of hours they spent in daycare. The results, published in the prestigious journal Child Development. I don't believe anything coming out of the psychology profession. You guys have not. I just don't believe you. You have not improved the mental health of the populations where your product is consumed the most. Showed that more hours in daycare center did not predict a direct and immediate increase in behavioral problems. In other words, an increase in the number of hours a child spent in daycare center did not simultaneously predict an increase in the behavior problems. And so the authors concluded, we found no evidence that more time spent in center-based child care poses a risk for developing behavior problems in early childhood. I'll tell you what it does do, though. You know what it does do is that when you're old, your children aren't going to want to spend time with you or help you out. I hope you all have Social Security. But in focusing only on short-term simultaneous effects, this is just a short-term study? The analyses actually ignored the real concern about childhood. That is the cumulative amount of time spent in daycare across infancy, toddler, and preschool years that associated with behavioral problems may not even show up until children enter school. The disconcerting effects of hours in daycare are most likely to materialize when children enter daycare for 20 to 30 hours per week in the first year of life and maintain that level until school started. All right, so you guys controlled for some variables. I'm going to skip ahead. This pattern was not clearly identified until the NICHD study of early child care and youth development, which followed 1,300 children from birth to age 15, and then a smaller research team followed them into adulthood. The study was launched in the early 90s when research on the effects of daycare on children had already become scattered, confusing, and controversial. Guys, it's like they need to have a study to say, do men find fat women attractive? And surprise, the fat women's industry or society or organization or the body positive organization nonprofit came up with a study that says, no, men find fat women just as attractive as skinny gals. And literally every other guy you talk to in the real world says, no, we like skinny chicks. I got to hand it to you academics and you journalists. You will do anything to make horrible people feel good about themselves so they can just keep on going to college, going into debt, enriching professors, enriching academia, enriching corporations so that they got a shit ton of debt slave labor that they got to eat the bullet and kiss the ring. You're making it, yeah, your SUV is more important than your children, of course. The Italian couch is more important than your husband, of course. Listen to what you're saying. Children do not need their parents. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Full part-time arrangements at 4, 3, or even 2 years of age. They're entering child care early in the first year of life, continuing that care off with many arrangement changes until starting school. Skilled researchers. We don't want them unskilled researchers. Give us the skilled ones, sir. Designed the NICHD-SECC to be a longitudinal inquiry that would follow children as they grew up while considering numerous potentially influential factors. the child's characteristics, family, home life, when they enter childcare and thereafter. Researchers also repeatedly assessed the children's socio-emotional and cognitive linguistic development. Like all studies, it is not without some limits, but it remains the only such investigation to be positioned to statistically tease apart the potentially distinctive effects of quantity, quality, and type of childcare, be it family center or otherwise. Importantly, investigating the distinctive effect of each of these behaviors, blah, 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 blah. All right. After all, it's the quality, stupid. So here's the highlighted part. I'll kind of go through it. The earliest findings indicated that at 15 months of age, more time spent in any kind of child care was associated with an increased risk of insecure infant-mother attachment relationship for some children. By 24 months of age, more time in child care across the first 2 years predicted less social competence and cooperation, more caregiver-reported behavior problems. By age 3, these negative effects seem to disappear. Well, I have it before we go on. Do you have any the same people who did the study says, it's fine. Do you have studies that show that they don't need a father either? And that, like, let's just ship them right out to the government, state assigned parents? No negative impact. One of us who was involved in the study acknowledged that the age 3 findings showing no negative effects were potentially important, but only if they continued as children developed. Unfortunately, they did not. Reassessment just prior to school entry at age 4.5 indicated that more hours per week in childcare across the early years of life predicted lower social competence, higher externalizing problems, more adult-child conflict, and more negative peer play, even after controlling for maternal education, family income, child sex, infant, ethnic group, and maternal depressive systems. So the money we waste on trying to create lies, and then the money we have to waste getting the data to counteract those lies. This is a tremendous amount of time and money. Like, what if you all just built houses instead? I think that would be a much better use of all of our time. Strikingly, these negative outcomes remained even after accounting for the quality of childcare, including how sensitive, supportive, and cognitively stimulating it was. Ladies, I'm sorry. Your children need you. They need their moms. That's it. I'm sorry that might get in the way of yourself and your career, but if it helps you any, you could put mirrors all around your house so you can look at yourself while you're raising your child. Don't worry, you can worship yourself the entire time. The negative outcomes associated with early and extensive hours in childcare persisted into assessments done in kindergarten, first, third, and sixth grades, as well as during adolescence. Third grade children had experienced more cumulative hours of childcare, increased risk, poorer habits. Sixth grade, teacher-child conflicts, 18. Behavior problems, use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Yeah, it's because your parents don't love you. I'm sorry, that's what it... What would you call it? No, what would you say? A parent who doesn't raise their child. What do you call that? It would be a mistake to catastrophize these effects. Not all children who spend extensive hours of childcare manifested negative effects, and for those who did, the levels of behavior problems did not raise the risk of true psychological disturbance. Okay, that's interesting. Nevertheless, there were only 5% of children who averaged under 10 hours a work week of childcare during the first 54 months. Nevertheless, were only 5% of children who averaged under 10 hours per week of childcare during the first 54 months had elevated or at-risk problem scores, 3 times as many who averaged 30 or more hours per week did. I'm confused about that statistic. Oh, 3 times. Okay, so you are 3 times. If you have 10 or less hours per week, you only got a 5% chance of having issues. If you had 3 times as many who average it. Okay, so who average. So then if you average 30 hours a week, it was triple. It was triple. Underlying factor, doody-doo. I'm not gonna. There it is. Do we need a multi-page? Do we need to follow that? This is why I don't like the social sciences. It's not sciences. It's propaganda. It's average intelligence people trying to act like doctors, like Dr. Jill Biden, who don't want to actually go become MDs or PhDs in physics or something like that. That wasn't interesting. This is sociology interesting. No, it really isn't. It's common sense. We figured this shit out through trial and error over the 200,000 years we've been here. Kids need their parents. That's it. I'm not even gonna. It's almost like when I argue with socialists, which I haven't done in a long time. Like, do you just want more of other people's money? Is that your solution? Okay, I don't care how creative your argument is. At the end of the day, you're just arguing for parasitism. That's it. I don't care what your studies say. You're a thief and you're a parasite. Shut the fuck up. Oh, but your studies, my studies aren't studies. You told me you always need other people's money to live. That's it. Why don't you work harder? Sitting here arguing, having to cite studies. Yeah, maybe parents should raise their children. Kevin Larson, tree fitting. Provo field agent. Where in Utah are you hiking? We gotta go south. I'm up in Virgin, which is outside of Zion, but it's gonna be snowing up in the mountains. It's already snowing in the mountains. I was gonna do what's it called? Bryce and Capitol Reef, but frankly, I think they're going to be snowed over. At least the passes are. So I'm going to be going south, maybe Page, somewhere around Kanab or Fredona. So that's where I'm probably going to be going. Elon Musk filthy jockstrap, $2. Here's $2 more to not review Ryan Stone's book. Hey, you know what? Pay me not to review Ryan Stone's book. And then, you know what, Elon? Let's do this. What if you paid so far, like $4? I'll tell Ryan, I'm like, hey, Elon paid me $4 not to read your book. So you have to pay me $5 for me to read it. Otherwise, and you guys get in a bidding war. Hey, bro, chill. Look, this guy who's been listening to me for 27,000 years, and then he gives, and I never heard of him before. Never seen him on my channel. He's been following my channel since what, 2012? It's been a while, right, bro? And then he comes on Chad Elkins' show, on Chad Elkins' channel 2 days ago, and proceeds to donate $1 billion freaking dollars in super chats. And we're like, where'd bro chill me? Like, oh, I've been following Cleary forever. Well, where the hell are the super chats? Well, thank you for the $2, bro chill. We appreciate it. And bro chill, like, I'm kidding, bro. You don't have to give super chats. It's $5. I won't super chat after having drank that much. Dude, how much are you out? It had to at least be $100, man. Oh God, yeah, you and Rerb got into it. So, all right, that's it. Questions, answers, assholeconsulting.com. If I'm to be a Democrat again, studies prove daycare is child abuse. If you put your children in daycare, you hate your child. That's what the studies prove. I'm just going to think you're a despicable parent. See you guys later, Toodles.